Hello everybody and welcome to Strasbourg for the first of my October blogs. There will be two this month because we've got two sessions here in Strasbourg because we have two in October to make up for the fact that we don't come in August. And as you know, as I've said to you before, the treaties mean that we have to come to Strasbourg 12 times a year. So what have we been doing this time? The big issue has been the Tobacco Products Directive, which we voted yesterday. And I have to say that it's been one of those issues where I've been very, very heavily lobbied. Now, you may read about lobbying on tobacco and the evils of the tobacco industry and the tens of millions of euros and pounds and dollars that the tobacco industry spend on influencing people like me. Well, I can honestly say that the tobacco industry itself has done very little lobbying, certainly as far as I was concerned. Where the lobbying has come from has been from citizens, and it's been very, very welcome. Because what we've been hearing about are these things called e-cigarettes. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with them, they're small battery-operated electronic devices which release a vapour which is no smoke and no harmful tar, etc., but does give an addicted smoker their nicotine hit. And they've been springing up, and I know only too well how they work because my own mother has used one. And they're very good for people who have breathing complications with smoking but find it hard to kick the habit. They do at least let them kick half of the bad habit. And many, many people, I can't tell you how many because we couldn't possibly count, it's hundreds, maybe thousands, have sent emails and written telling me how useful they found these e-cigarettes in their fight to give up smoking. Unfortunately, on the Tobacco Products Directive, the Socialist rapporteur, who happens to be a Labour member, Linda McCavan, has been quite clear that she wants to follow a programme of medicalising e-cigarettes. By that I mean that they would have to be authorised as any other medical product. So if you were inventing a new drug for heart disease, for example, which one would expect to go through very rigorous clinical trials and for it to take many years before it came to market to protect us as consumers, effectively what they were saying is that these e-cigarettes should go through the same process and then would be available via your doctor. At the moment, you can buy one in Waitrose. Now, I've very much objected to that, and I'm very grateful to the thousands of people who contacted me, because without that lobbying, I wouldn't have really had full knowledge of the subject. And I'm delighted to tell you that actually the Parliament voted not to follow the rapporteur's advice and to make sure small bit of regulation around quality, but no more than any other product that's on the market, not medicalising, so that people will still be able to use e-cigarettes to help them give up. So that's a small victory for Parliament, and I think a huge victory for citizens who really, really did get on the case of MEPs and push their views. So congratulations to them. Also, of course, I shouldn't really pass by the first week of October without talking a little bit about conference last week, and I know a lot of you were there. It was a great conference from my point of view. Conference is great for MEPs. We have such a large region. It's wonderful to be able to meet with our constituents in a concentrated place like that. So we had a very successful time. I thought the speeches from the floor were, from the platform, were absolutely fabulous. I can't really fault them. There was no session I was in, at least, that I felt was boring. But the final day, on the Wednesday, when the Prime Minister spoke to us, was really uplifting. And he was preceded by a speech from Ruth Davidson, the leader of the Scottish Conservatives, the first woman. Well, she's not the first woman leader of the Scottish Conservatives, but she's the only sort of prominent leading Conservative within the devolved nations, and I found her really, really inspiring. I thought it was a great speech, so if any of you want to look at that, it's available on YouTube and very, very good. All about the Better Together campaign, about keeping Scotland as part of the UK, which I fully support. Just one last thing from conference. We, Conservative MEPs, we launched this little bookmark card. Looks fairly innocuous, but I can tell you it's very good, been very well received. What we've got on one side is Conservatives delivering for Britain in the EU, and it takes you through the referendum promise, the referendum lock, budget cut, etc. And on the other side, just a few little details about what we Conservative MEPs have done to lighten the load of regulation coming from Brussels. So please get in touch with my office in the UK if you'd like some of these. They're very handy for when you're canvassing. They're very handy for when you're talking to people. And I must say, we'll be making plenty more of these sorts of things in the run-up to next year's election. So I'll sign off on that. Nice to speak to you. Speak to you again in a couple of weeks' time.